So hi Anthony, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I'm doing great. Um,
Cool.
is it all right if I jump right in with my questions?
Go for it.
All right. So first off, I hear that this script had a long journey from start to finish. How did you come to be the director for the film?
I was given the script by a mutual producer friend, and I was kind of really taken by the way the script used the classic Western tropes and sort of throttled you into this almost theatrical style, slow burn out in the middle of nowhere. When I read the script, there was sort of nothing before the crash and the robbery, and it was not based, sort of was not the exploration of a black woman hiding in the old west. It was really just two men sort of caught in this moment. And sort of in researching the time and the world, I stumbled upon the Cafe Williams story. And we thought, wow, there's a really interesting vein that we can take there, just a little bit, plus this over here. And, Letitia's sort of, she very, very quickly became the person that we really wanted for the film. So after we reached out to her, we pitched her the movie, she came on board and she really helped us develop out that female journey and that journey as a black woman in the old West, based on, her own research and what was honest to her. And so, yeah, that's how we got to where we were.
Um, so it originally featured two male characters. Can you explain a little bit about your decision to not only change one of those characters, but change them to be a black woman?
I'm interested in sort of complexity as it relates to the landscape that characters meet on, and sort of like social dualities. So even though it's a film that takes place, 120 years ago, I saw the opportunity to sort of explore a lot of the conflicts we have today when it comes to sort of, race, gender, trauma, how we intersect with each other, how we see each other, and what maybe the underlying truth is and what we share. And looking at Mo and Tommy as two sort of opposites that sort of share a lot more than what you first feel they share, which at that point is just really, violence and trauma and the moment. But as the film goes on, you realize that they share a lot more than you think, and that all of their stories are going to be linked forever because they're going to have this final duel. Um, to me, that felt worthwhile, and I was able to sort of tell this larger story by writing sort of everything that happened before the crash, and so we really like shook the script down to a new script, myself and Andy and eventually Letitia and Jamie.
Thank you for that. Um, I'm not well versed in Westerns, but from the Westerns that I do know, this felt very traditional. And you mentioned tropes in one of your earlier answers. So I was just wondering, like what elements from classic Westerns did you decide to keep, and which ones did you kind of decide to stay away from?
When I think about Westerns, I think about, first of all, setting, landscape, the vastness of the Old West, the unpredictability of the Old West, the sort of new frontier, and the conflict of sort of good versus evil, right versus wrong, and that's sort of the classic tropes. We could take those tropes and sort of, push them into this modern view of it, where those who appear wrong will justify why they're actually right. Those people that you hate, you might end up liking. Two people that really are at war are now sort of at peace, but maybe they're going to go to war again. Um, these are sort of like, really like your protagonist is a black woman who people think is a black man. There's just like a lot of things that we've taken and turned on its head, which make it, I think, more modern and more complex.
Yeah, and it definitely speaks to more modern times that way as well. And it's my understanding that the film was filmed in New Mexico. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, what made New Mexico the perfect backdrop for the film?
Well, I mean, the vastness of it, the landscape, the depth, many of the great westerns were filmed in New Mexico. There's an incredible history of westerns there. There's an area that we shot the film called Abiquiu, which is where Ghost Ranch is, where George O'Keeffe lived and painted every day. There's something just historically grand about it, and you kind of can't take your eyes off of it. And so as a palette, it represented something very, very special.
I agree. It was a very pretty set. Um, One thing that I really liked about the film was the dialogue between Letitia and Jamie's characters, and kind of how it spoke to like the history of America and things like that. So I was just wondering, is there anything in particular that you hope the audience takes away from watching the film?
In a way, our stories are all unique, but in some sort of strange way, we share a lot of things, and that sort of commonality between us, even in these hard, dangerous moments, can make the moment human. And I think that like human interaction is what we all crave. There's something incredibly inhumane about that time. People really lived on one side of a wet gun or not, or the other side, and we judged one another from afar. Um, and I think you see a lot of that in the opening of the movie to set the palette. But I think once we land at the tree and Tommy's tied up and metaphorically Mo is tied up as well by where she is being trapped, where she is, even in the open vastness, we start to learn and see how their stories are actually much more related than we initially would have judged. And I think that that nuance and that gray and sort of taking what feels black and white and starting to like chop it in tones of gray is, to me, is where truth is. And that sort of human connection is, and that human sort of like that mirroring of two people standing at one another and seeing their commonalities, because differences are easy to see. The commonality is where heart is. So
Right. And I think that's something that kind of everyone can relate to, especially coming out of COVID. So just my final question for you is just it's open-ended. Just is there anything else that you really want people to know about your film?
one, that it's our honor to have Michael Kay's last movie. Um, Two, the movie is a wild ride that really makes you think and feel, um, and something I hope the audiences really enjoy.
I'm sure they will. I definitely enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.